At the Sports History Network, we're proud to introduce you to a new sponsor for our podcasts. It's Home Field Apparel, your premium collegiate apparel brand right out of Indianapolis. They've got incredibly comfortable t-shirts, plus they're officially licensed with vintage college designs. They have over 150 plus colleges available now and always adding more. Homefield digs through the archives and history of your school to find unique logos, mascots, and moments to make thoughtful designs for your school. When you shop today, new customers can get a 15% discount off their first purchase using the promo code SPORTSHISTORY at checkout. You can learn more at homefieldapparel.com.
A stick measurement has been called. It's the stick of Marty McSorley.
Welcome to Marty's Illegal Stick, a hockey history podcast with your host, Scott Kinville. Let's hop on that Zamboni time machine and go back in time to look at hockey's glorious history.
And what's up, hockey fans, and welcome to episode number 91 of Marty's Illegal Stick, a hockey history podcast, recording here on Tuesday, August 30th, 2022. We are brought to you by the Sports History Network, and we are powered by My Little Falls. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com to check out some Marty's Illegal Stick swag and other great history podcasts to do with sports. A lot of football on there, too, so if you're a football fan, we got football season starting. Go check it out. It's a great time. And speaking of great time, we've been having a great time already before the show even started, right? So we were talking about what would happen if your credit card got stolen, your debit card got stolen, and how, maybe the banks won't back you up so much anymore. So, Dave, without further ado, we'll give you your quick story.
We were starting before that because I got to say asshole, because that's what I was going to say when the intro came on. That my age is close to the episode number?
The show has a couple more episodes to catch up to. Maybe 7 or 8.
Yeah. I'll tell you about landing at Iwo Jima, all right?
Listen, I told you, no one's safe.
No, we're no longer going to be a podcast. We're going to be on phonographs. That's
I know.
Wind it up.
No. I got this notice. I made my car payment in July. Got this notice that they didn't receive it, and late payment and late fee and all this other crap. I go call them up, and they're like, and I checked the bank. It didn't clear the bank, and so I make an online payment. I'm like, everybody uses the excuse I lost it. 4 weeks later, they cashed that check. So 6 weeks after I sent it in, they cashed the check. I call them today. They say, no, we never got that. I said, I'm looking at it on my screen. It's right here. I can tell you your bank account number, when you cashed it, everything. Well, we're going to check into that. Comes back on, 5 minutes later. We've applied that to your account. Well, whose account was it applied to? I mean, think about it. It's not a small car payment, but that kind of stuff happens. How many people catch it? Well,
Yeah, I totally understand that, but you know what? Stop sending your payments in by carrier pigeon. I know that's how they used to do it back in the day, but...
Listen, if the shit hits the fan, they're good to eat, so shut up.
Well, hey,
You gotta say.
So we're already having fun, and we've got even more fun lined up because we are doing another of our Best of the Best series today. And today, we are covering the legendary Hartford Whalers, along with the Carolina Hurricanes, because they are one in each of the same franchise. Makes it kind of difficult. But we're going to go through this all the same. And to help us out, and this is a guy who is going to be more and more appearing on this show because he had such a good time a couple weeks ago, and we loved having him on. He's going to be back more and more. It's Ed Stefanik. How are you, pal?
Not bad. How are you guys?
Good.
Hey, does my sound good? Can you guys hear me well?
Yeah, we can hear you, unfortunately.
Make sure your hearing aids are turned up.
No. I have a mute button, Ed.
Oh, man. So, Eddie, are you ready for this? Because I know, the Hartford Whalers are just one of those teams of legendary lore. And I wanted to ask you before we got going, because they were only in Hartford, they were in the NHL for 20 years. And as the Hartford Whalers, they started off in the WHA. They were a really good team in the WHA in the 70s. Not so much success as an NHL team, but for some reason, this team just endures on in hockey hearts everywhere as one of the most beloved teams. Why is that?
So it starts with the logo. It's so simple yet so beautiful. It's like one of those, like, sometimes simpler is better. It's just a W with a whale fin coming off the middle spike of the W.
Mm-hmm.
Which, and what the story I heard was that because of that whale fin coming out of the middle of the W, it creates an HW, Hartford Whalers.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've ever noticed that. If you look at the logo, it actually makes an HW in the logo. That was a complete accident, from to my understanding.
Okay.
So it starts off there. Second off, because the Bruins are so hated amongst casual and non-Boston sports fans, and I could admit that because there are times where I look at Bruins fans online and I'm like, you guys are absolute sociopaths. I'm not. I love the Bruins. I love their play style. I love everything they do as a franchise, even though their GM currently I don't like. But I will support them to my fullest. I don't like our fans as a Boston fan. But everyone loves the Whalers because they got sued by the Bruins.
They did.
And because Boston said, we have the New England rights in the NHL. Why are you putting another team here? And originally they were in Boston, the Whalers. They were the New England Whalers in the WHA. They moved to Hartford because they said, Boston's your territory. We will find a new home in New England. But we want to stay in New England. So amongst lore, because Boston hated them so much is why everyone loves them.
Okay. I mean, I can buy into that. And obviously the Boston Garden was part of the problem too, because the Bruins obviously had first dibs. Yes. And then you had the Celtics playing there at the same time. So the New England Whalers at the time were getting really terrible dates and times to have their games, which was really affecting attendance, stuff like that. But I've always loved not only their logo, I've always liked Pucky the Whale.
I met Pucky the Whale.
Did you really?
The name is...
I know, right?
I met Pucky the Whale. So there's a guy in Hartford who bought Pucky the Whale. I went to a Bruins Hurricanes game, and I picked this game out. This was the last NHL game I went to in like 2020 with my father. And it was Boston, Carolina, and Carolina wore the green Whalers jerseys.
Mm-hmm.
And because, now it's a little bit more like PR friendly.
Yeah.
So like Boston, so the Bruins now were like, hey, Pucky the Whale, like, come on. The guy who owned Pucky the Whale came out and was Pucky the Whale.
Right.
I'm like, I got to get a picture. I'm a little kid at this point, because Hartford was my first favorite team as a child. So, little fact about me, I grew up loving the Whalers.
Okay.
Just a couple of weeks ago.
He just grew up.
If I'm going to one end, he's going to the other.
There we go.
Hey, listen, I'd rather take that end.
And it's on.
But yeah, so the history of the Whalers is like, is great, especially WHA days, which, like, as much as I want to add WHA players to this, it really wasn't anything compared to the NHL.
Yeah, it's hard because, I mean, they were only in the WHA for, 7 years, something like that.
Yeah, well, the WHA wasn't really that long of a stretch either.
No, but you know what, though? I'll tell you, I wish there was something like the WHA again.
Oh, God, I think we mentioned that last time.
I think that would be
fantastic. WHA, what was it, the USFL and the ABA? That would be so much fun to have rival leagues.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Here in the States, because that's just more players making more money.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. And of course, one cannot forget the Brass Bonanza. I mean, I should have had Dave pull up a YouTube clip of that before we got started. That was my fault, Dave. Don't worry.
I was looking for the logo. I was like,
that is my fault.
Right.
But no, we got Barry Shelley, who obviously is a huge hockey fan, one of the biggest hockey fans we know. And of course, he's right, because the Binghamton Whalers were their AHL team for a little while, and their logo was actually just turned 90 degrees to make it look like a B, which was really cool.
Yep, I have a Whalers logo cut, like it's just an iron-on like chest logo for a jersey, and I don't know if I want to turn it into the Hartford Whalers jersey or the Binghamton Whalers jersey. I'm actually torn by it.
That's interesting.
Because, I mean, I got to represent New York.
Right.
You know, got to represent my bingo. I love bingo.
Yeah.
That's if you ask Danny Maycock, that's where I got my worst concussion of all time.
Still with you to this day.
Oh, that's great.
If you talk to Danny about that, he says that was the worst hit he's ever seen.
Wow.
It was 100% clean, but it was a guy his size. I lined him up, he put his elbow right into my face, and rest is gone. No memory. I remember going to the game. I don't remember anything after it.
Wow.
Move.
Man.
He reminded me in the locker room. I was crying from laughter. It was so funny the way he tells it. He's like,
That's
you get
great.
up, you skate full bore, and you just punch the glass. I don't know why you punch the glass. You just punch the glass.
Well, and you don't remember. That's the key. Well, anyways, let's get on with our list here because, like I said, I've been looking forward to this for a while. You know, it's just like I said, the Whalers are beloved. The Hurricanes, not so much so. You know, they're there. I don't think they're really hated by anybody, but they're certainly not as loved as the Whalers were.
I mean,
But there's also some very, very good players from the Hurricanes era too. So
Yes.
So with that said, Eddie, your honorable mentions for the Hartford Whaler Carolina Hurricane combination.
So my honorable mentions for the Hartford Whaler Carolina Hurricanes. I'm going to start off with Brett Hedican.
Oh,
I don't
interesting.
think. Yes, Brett Hedican wasn't like a standout defenseman in my eyes. You know, they've actually had some phenomenal defensemen over the years, some of which we will get into when the second and first team All Stars. And modern day Carolina Hurricanes is, I mean, this is the best Hurricanes we're ever going to see is this year. So I'm going to put Brett Hedican on my list of just honorable mentions.
Okay.
Because he was good enough, but not great.
But he was fast, though. Man,
He
I
was.
could
He
skate
was
like the
really
wind.
fast. But that's all he had, I think, in my eyes. My other one is another defenseman, Paul Coffey.
That's right.
He was not there very long, therefore he does not really earn a position on the All-Star teams.
Yeah, I think he was there for like one season, something like that. Yeah.
Another one I have is Pat Verbeek.
Okay.
You know, Pat Verbeek, just a solid forward. I think he had better years elsewhere with other teams. Did captain, I believe. I think he was captain of the Whalers for quite a while.
I think he was, yeah.
And my next one, I would say right now, the last of my honorable mentions is now Utica legend Kevin Dineen.
Okay.
Comets coach. I got to say, probably he's going to bring a championship to Utica in 3 years.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think Kevin Dineen is a solid player.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no doubt about that. So I got some here, and Barry says Rick Mahar better be mentioned. I don't think Rick Mahar was there that long as an NHLer. I was looking at the list earlier, and it's but anyways, that could be on Barry's list. So my honorable mentions are as player and coach, Rod Brindamore.
Okay.
Rod the Bod, right? So I mean, he was great. He was outstanding as a player, and he's also been a fantastic coach for him. My other ones are Oswego, New York native Eric Cole. Because we got to represent, right?
We got to disagree somewhere.
We got to represent, right? We got to represent Central New York. So, and he won a cup in 2006. So,
Yes.
So there you go. Sebastian Aho, who one day is probably going to be in the first or the second team All-Star ranks. But for right now, I just don't think he's been there long enough. But he's certainly on a fantastic trajectory. So
I think so. We're gonna have some disagreements with this because I think I'm putting a couple. I think a couple of these players might have made it on my list.
Oh boy,
Yeah.
Dave,
Yeah.
you got your wish. There might not be harmony today.
Good.
No harmony whatsoever. Just the other ones I got too. Ray Ferraro, Jeff Courtnall. I had to put the Hows on there. Gordy and Mark. Right. Gordy only played one season in the NHL for them.
Yes.
One season, and Mark was there for like 3, I think.
Yep.
But for me, either one of them were there long enough as NHLers to really crack that, top 2. And if I had to pick a goaltender, just because I always love saying his name, it's got to be Peter Sidorkiewicz.
Okay.
I love saying the name.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good name. I will say that.
So there's my honorable mentions right there.
Okay, yeah, we're definitely gonna have some disagreements.
Oh, and I'm loving this. This is fantastic. This is great. Yeah. All right, so I'll tell you what then. Since we got some storm surge brewing.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. I like that a lot.
All right, second team All-Stars for Ed. Who's your coach?
My coach for second team All-Stars is Paul Maurice.
There you go, Paul Maurice.
Paul Maurice. I really wanted to put Rod the Bod on for my second team All-Star, but he hasn't been coaching quite long enough for me to justify that. But Paul Maurice winning his coaching in Hurricanes history, but it's missing one thing that my first team coach is doing and has gotten. Paul Maurice, phenomenal coach. I mean, we've seen it everywhere he has coached. He's just a solid coach. He gets his players to play for him. I don't know how he does it without any drama,
right?
Because there always is. I mean, yeah. So he just finds a way. He connects with players, and he relates to them. And that's where I think Rod Brendamore also excels. He was a player,
right?
So he relate to them.
Makes sense.
I think that Paul Maurice has earned a spot on second team All-Stars as a coach.
Okay. All right.
So how about your coach?
So my coach, I'm going with Peter Laviolette.
Okay.
The guy who led them to their 06 Cup.
Yes.
So, I mean, you can't argue with success, right? You just can't. And that was the reason he got the nod over Brindamore as a coach, actually, because he made it to the top of the mountain. So, because I was kind of struggling on that one. I'm like, boy, this is back and forth because Brindamore's put together some fantastic seasons as a coach.
Yes.
Right? But the very fact that Laviolette lifted the cup over his head as a coach for the Carolina Hurricanes, the only one in franchise history, he gets my nod for the second team All-Star coach.
See, so like this is where I struggle. Is like to me, like I need the cup is what separates them.
Right.
So the cup is to me is that separating factor here, and Paul Maurice just couldn't get it done, and he had every chance in the world to get it done back when they made it to their first cup finals, I believe in 03. Maybe it was
no, it was
2002.
Yeah.
So
when they played Detroit.
Yes, they lost to the Red Wings. So I mean, I'll give him all the credit in the world. He brought Carolina to their first Stanley Cup final.
But I will say, in all fairness, the 0-2 team that Detroit had was like 3/4 Hall of Famers. So.
I know. I can't scratch that fact. That team is stacked. This is why we need the salary cap, is because of the Detroit Red Wings.
It's like somebody went into like the video game and just said, "Here, I'm building the ultimate team," and that's it.
Yes, it's like you create a team, then put them in franchise mode, and then it's like a 99 overall.
Yeah, right.
I get it. The only thing that Detroit team didn't have that great of was goaltending, and they were still phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, like, they had the Dominator.
He was old.
There he goes.
Yeah.
But
what are you trying to say? Dave was in goal? What are you trying to say?
Yeah. No, but like in hockey years, he was like 34 at that time.
In hockey years.
Hockey years.
If you notice, retirement in hockey is like 40 years old now, where like retirement in real life is like 70 now.
Yeah, but I mean, give the guy credit for playing that long. He used to bend himself up like a pretzel.
I know. The Dominator was great. But like, that's just saying that the weak spot on that team was goaltending is like, that's just because it was, but like it was still
just because you had to say something.
Just because it was better than everybody else's goaltending at the time.
Yeah.
Too. I mean, who's the backup? Dan Cloutier or was it Chris Osgood?
I think it was Ozzy.
It was Osgood.
Yeah.
So there was no way around it. That goaltending tandem was still the best in the league.
Right.
It just happened to be their worst department.
Right. All right. So speaking of goaltending, then. Who is your second team All-Star goaltender for the Hartford Whaler Carolina Hurricane franchise?
Arturs Irbe.
Arturs Irbe.
Just the greatest name in hockey.
Even better than Peter Sidorkiewicz?
Way better than Peter Sidorkiewicz. It's because that one doesn't roll off the tongue.
Well, it does for me.
It does for you.
Irbe was a good goaltender. I think actually he was so underrated. For his entire career. But the thing, like, with Irbe, I always thought of him as a San Jose Shark.
See, I always thought of him as a Carolina Hurricane.
Right?
But, like, so, like, his early career was San Jose.
Yeah.
So, like, that's when I was, like, a child. back when the Whalers were still a team, he was a Shark. So like me growing up, I watched him as a Hurricane. So like I grew to hate, like love and hate him at the same time, because like I always thought he was such a unique goaltender because he was one of the last of the stand-ups.
Right.
Because like, I mean, if you look at his leg pads, I mean, there was no space between them. They were like this. There's no room. He had no room down low to get around him, and he was just overall just a lights out goaltender.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, he was. I mean, there's no taking it away from him. He was a really good goaltender. But I think my second team goaltender might be just a little bit better because he had much better career numbers and he was dominant in the early 80s. And that's Mike Liu.
Okay.
Now, if you remember Mike Liu, you had that really long, elongated mask.
Yes.
Right? And it's funny because sometimes when you think of Mike Liu, you can't help but think St. Louis Blues. But he did play for like 5 or 6 seasons for the Whalers. And honestly, for some of those teams that were, let's face it, terrible, he was the only thing that they had.
Yeah.
That was keeping them in games. So I can't help but go with Mike Liu.
Yeah. No, I completely understand that.
So, all right, but we still got some disagreements. Dave's over there chomping at the bit. He's all happy that we're arguing and not getting along.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that said, who are your 2 defensemen?
Okay. I'm going to go with defenseman 1 because I'm still actually undecided on defenseman 2.
Okay.
So defenseman 1 for me is Chris Pronger. You can't deny the guy a spot on this list. He was great with the Whalers. He was all-star with the Whalers. He that's the team where he got his name. I know everyone looks at him as a Blue, as a Duck, as an Oiler. But with the Whalers is where he got it started, and the Whalers is where he made a name for himself.
That is true. That is very true. That is very true.
And the surprising name has not made it on my list. I think there's going to be a youth revolution coming up with me.
Uh-oh. What do you got?
Yeah. Oh, well, my second defenseman, I'm going to actually go with Glenn Wesley.
You just couldn't help the Bruins in yourself, could you?
No, you're right. Glenn Wesley was a Bruin, and that makes him an all-time great. But he's just overall he was a solid defenseman.
Yeah,
he was. I remember as a kid he was really good with Boston. He was really good with Hartford. So and just overall, just a good solid defenseman who you could put in a top pairing on almost any team.
You know what I didn't realize about Glenn Wesley is that he played 10 seasons for the Whalers.
Yep.
Because isn't that so weird? That it's like Glenn Wesley, when you say that, the first thing that pops into my head is the Boston Bruins, and probably because of the early Stanley Cup runs.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's when you heard the most about him.
Yeah.
But he was really a mainstay in Hartford, and he also spent time with the Hurricanes. So that's a good choice, actually. That's a really good choice.
He was there for the 0-2 Cup run, too.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
The 0-2 Cup run.
Good call. Good call, my man. Well, I'll agree with you on Pronger. I'll definitely agree with you. And Wesley is actually an outstanding choice that I don't really think about. But my other second defenseman, and again, just because I love the name and it was always so great, the Z-Man, Zarley Zalapski.
Oh, God. I haven't heard that name in so long.
Find the weirdest name.
You know, that's I could help it. I just could not help it. And actually, I think like the most significant part of him was when he got traded to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, probably.
If you think about it, right? Because what was it? It was him and Ulf Samuelsson went over, I think, right?
Yeah.
And was Ronnie Francis a part of that deal, or was that a separate deal?
That was a separate deal.
Okay, I couldn't remember. But that's
because Ulf Samuelsson, he went to Pittsburgh and I want to say for the second cup.
I think it was. It was something like that.
Ron Francis was there for the first.
All right. That was it. Yeah, because everybody was like, "Oh my God, Pittsburgh traded away Zarley Zalapski," and then they won the cup.
Yeah. Yep. So, and I hate Ulf Samuelsson, so he's not going to talk about him anymore. He's a guy who I wouldn't mind hearing his car flipped or something.
Oh my God!
Oh yeah,
wow. That is hatred.
Hatred. I'm full of it,
man.
I mean, there's some players out there who I don't really care much for their existence.
Jeez, I almost thought we were talking about the Red Wings Avalanche rival here for a second.
Oh God! Tell me when that episode is. I'll be there.
Yeah, right.
I watched that game live. I watched that game live on ESPN back in like '97. So,
that's great.
Have memories. That was my first hockey fight I've ever seen, and I was sucked in ever since.
Oh boy! All right, so moving right along, your second team, all-time All-Star left winger for the Hartford Whalers, Carolina Hurricanes.
All right, this is where the youth revolution is starting.
Okay,
Andrei Svechnikov.
Ooh, Svechnikov.
He barely meets the requirements. He barely does. I think he's been there 4 years now, 4 or 5. But there's no denying his prowess in the history now. I mean, consistent goal scorer, playmaking abilities, the puck handling skills, the hands of silk. The guy overall is just great. I mean, I think when it's all said and done and it's time for him to retire, I could see him being a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Wow.
The Michigan, the consistent Michigan, something that I know. Listen. I was talking to a kid at Skate and Shoot. I was talking to a kid at Skate and Shoot, and I told him if anyone ever, because he was telling me like, I'm going to learn the Michigan. And I'm like, that's cool and all, but if anyone ever tries it on you, you two-hand him as hard as you can in the wrist.
I'm telling you right now, with that Michigan, I cannot believe somebody hasn't gotten knocked out trying that. Could you imagine if somebody tried that with like a Pronger or a Scott Stevens around back in the day?
Well,
could you imagine that?
There's no Pronger or Scott Stevens anymore.
Well, that's what I mean. But every time I watch it, I'm like, wow. These guys have no idea how good they've got it now, because I'm telling you, some of those guys back then, they would have cleaned these guys' clocks for even trying it.
Yes. Yep, but it's a mainstay in the NHL now. Everyone's doing it, and you can't help but deny the fact that you cannot deny the fact that he has made a change in hockey forever.
Yeah, you know what I always wondered about that Michigan, though? I mean, because they always say that you should have your stick below the crossbar.
Yep.
Right? At some point, isn't that blade with the puck, though, end up over the crossbar when you're lifting? You know what I mean? I don't know. To me, that's such a gray area.
That's really all it is a gray area.
You know? Listen, they're going to do everything they can to keep that in the game and keep adding to it because, it's the video game. And I get it. Fine. I mean, whatever. All I'm saying is, back in our day, I'm starting to sound like Dave.
Yeah.
Well, back in our day, no way would that have flown.
Yeah,
that's back in my day too. Because I mean, I'll tell you what. When I was growing up playing, you always aim for the legs of the skilled players. Aim for the legs. Take their knees out. Who cares? They got 2 of them,
right?
If somebody tries something like that, and you two-hand them like it's that scene in the Mighty Ducks 2 where the Iceland player slashes Carter Banks. I mean, you took them out where it hurt,
right?
And that's gone. That's gone from the game, and you got to think of players like Svechnikov is why it's changed too, because the league wants to protect him.
Well, yeah. I mean, and if that's the direction they want to go in, then that's the direction they want to go in. That's fine.
I don't hate that direction. I just wish they were more balanced.
Yeah.
It just seems to me that it's like there's no balance where like you had like the 80s all the way up to the lockout, for where it was just violence.
Right.
You had the McSorley incident, the Bertuzzi incident, all these things. And then it just as soon as the lockout was over, it just switched hands, and it was like, oh, well, guess what? We're a skill league now, and that's what we're going to go for. And it fizzled out fighting, and I get why that's happening, but I don't like it. But
right. Well, here's the thing, right? I mean, obviously, you can't have flat out goonery in the game. It's no good for it. You can't have goonery. But by its very nature, hockey is just a physical sport, and I'm sorry, but you can put all the rules you want in place. When you got players that are out there going 20 miles an hour on skates, collisions are bound to happen.
Yeah.
It's just gonna. I mean, there's just no getting around it.
No, you're absolutely right.
So absolutely get rid of the goonery. And I totally am for protecting players as far as like headshots, concussions, stuff like that. That's totally, absolutely, you have to.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. But, we'll see. I mean, that's kind of A gray area, but now I don't want to say a gray area. It's just it's a big change from one generation to another, I guess.
It is, and there's going to be a learning curve for players or fans like myself, all the way down to Dave, who's been watching since Maurice Richard was in the league.
Maurice Richard, he was around when Eddie Shore was in the league.
Yeah, you're right.
Didn't have power back then.
Nope. Played hockey by candlelight.
But so like you know who he's not going to pull that move off of.
Right.
You know he's not going to do it against Ryan Reeves and the Rangers. You know he's not going to do it against Tom Wilson and the Capitals. So there's still an element of that where he's going to where his coach Rod Brindamore is probably like, don't do it on this team.
Right.
They have killers. They have natural born killers. You don't want to do it. And he doesn't. But when he plays a team like the Ducks, then he can pull it off.
Yeah, true. So I'll tell you who I went with. I went with Jeff Skinner. And I know Buffalo Sabres fans are going crazy listening to that right now. You've got to be kidding me, right? But before he went to Buffalo, he was actually a really good winger.
He was. He
was a consistent 40-goal scorer. There was no – he was one of those guys, he was so hot and cold, right? When he was cold, forget it. He was just ice cold. But when he was on, man, he put that puck in the net like I said, I think he has like 2 or 3 40-goal seasons with the Hurricanes.
Yeah.
And I don't know, you can't overlook that.
Well, now he's on. I think he had a 40-goal season last year, and obviously his first year in Buffalo, he had a 40-goal season.
So got him that huge contract.
Yeah. So now it's starting to pay off, and maybe the trade of Eichel kind of helped out with that. But
could be.
Jeff Skinner was a solid. I think he was too hot and cold for me to even.
Right. No, there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah, like when he was cold, he was ice cold.
Yeah. There was just nothing there.
He was almost non-existent. He was a non-factor on the ice when he wasn't scoring.
Right. All right, so moving right along. How about our centerman?
My center, again, I think he's going to find himself a first ballot Hall of Famer, is Sebastian Aho.
Whoa. Nice. I thought you were having some stomach issues for a second. I'm sorry.
I am, but that was just some guy's jalopy coming out of it.
For once, it wasn't us.
Yeah, I know, right?
I was like, what? Usually it's not on our end here.
Yeah. All right, so Sebastian Aho, good choice. Like I said, I wanted to put him in this list. I really did. Looking at the numbers, he's already the 3rd leading scorer in Carolina Hurricanes history.
Yeah.
Already.
So to me, he was the catalyst for the turnaround of the Hurricanes.
Right.
I remember before he was there, it was bad. It was bad.
It was. You're right.
They were an easy win day in and day out. And Sebastian Aho got there, and then all of a sudden the GM was like, all right, we got to build around this guy.
Right.
We now have a centerpiece, and he will in the near future he will be captaining that team.
Oh, no doubt about it. No doubt. And then the Montreal Canadiens gifted the Hurricanes by trying to offer sheet him to what I couldn't believe was a lowball offer, really.
And it really was.
What if you're Sebastian Aho? Why would you even accept that? Why are you like, nah, just get that out of here? You're like really cramping my style here,
You know what? I think Carolina was dilly-dallying on getting him a deal, and he's like, all right, well, this one came across, might as well do it.
Right? It could be.
Then Carolina's like, all right, thanks for giving us a number.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And and I'll tell you what, that deal is going to be. It already is outstanding. Wait for a couple of years. When that salary cap goes up and all these salaries start skyrocketing, that's going to be like one of the biggest bargain deals in the NHL.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Oh, that's going to be a bargain deal for sure.
And like I told you, I really wanted to put him on this list. But if there's one position that this Hurricanes Whalers franchise has had a strong history at, it's center.
It is.
Center is where it's always logjam for them. And simply because, for me, Aho hasn't been there long enough. He's been there 7 years. I went with Eric Stahl.
I like that. I do like Eric Stahl.
He was there 12 years. He's the leading scorer as far as Carolina Hurricanes. Just the Hurricanes, don't include the Whalers. Yep. And it's by far, too. He was over Rod Brindamore by over 300 points.
Yep.
You know, and listen, he was on the Stanley Cup winning team. You know, and again, I know it's a team effort. It's a team effort, but like you said earlier, cups win. I mean, that's your, you know, you can't deny a champion. And Eric Stahl meant everything to that franchise for so long when they were good and when they got bad. But he was there. He was consistent. He was their leader. And again, like I said, at some point, Aho will overtake him.
Yes.
But right now, here in 2022, it's still Eric Stahl at center for me.
Yes, I can agree with that. I get it. You know, but Eric Stahl, we're not done hearing his name in my eyes.
Probably not.
Yeah, we're definitely not going to. Yeah, he's far from done being talked about with the lore of Carolina. I think Carolina overall is a phenomenal team when it comes to building centermen. And I can agree with you, Eric Stahl is probably the best in franchise history.
Right now.
That's a little foreshadowing.
Right.
Yeah, for right now. So I really like where you put him.
Yeah.
I can't disagree with it.
Yeah.
The only thing, I think you lowballed him.
Probably, but you know what, though? Talk to me about 5 years and see where everything is. So.
Oh, definitely. That's why Aho's on second team for me right now.
Right.
You know, we're talking about right now.
Exactly. So, to finish off this second team, and then we'll do a quick commercial break, who's your right winger?
My right winger is the greatest of all time, the GOAT.
Oh, boy.
Gordon Howe. Mr. Gordon Howe.
Yeah.
I know, he wasn't there for
one season.
Of his career. You think of him as a Detroit Red Wing. You think of him as a Houston Arrow. And I know a majority of his years as a Whaler was in the WHA with the New England Whalers. But, damn, he sold that team.
Yeah.
He's why they got popular.
Yeah.
You know, that's why the Winnipeg Jets were popular in the WHA. It was because of Brett Hull. You know, what was it, the Calgary Stampeders or whoever they were? The Calgary WHA team was Derek Sanderson, you know, and Gordie Howe was the one to make it through and get back into the NHL. And
well, Bobby Hull did the same thing with the Jets.
Yeah, he did. I think Bobby Hull isn't the name recognition that Gordie Howe is anymore.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. I mean there's no doubt about that. But like I said, that was the whole reason I put Gordie in my honorable mentions. Just because you can't ignore him. But like I said, just for me, I mean, it's funny to say lack of longevity when we're talking about Gordie Howe.
I know.
That's like an oxymoron, but it's true. He was only there for one season as far as them being an NHL franchise, and he really wasn't there that long as in the WHA either. I think he was there maybe three
Yeah, he only played for the Whalers WHA NHL team
maybe
for 4 years.
Yeah, so
like he barely makes the list, but to me, he's on it because of how well he was, how much he was marketed.
Right.
And he was you can't deny the fact his one season in the NHL as a Whaler, he was an all-star.
Right. I mean, he was still productive. I mean, you can't, especially he was 51 years old. I mean, it's incredible. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, that's just the only reason he ended up in my honorable mentions. And you know, and it was hard for me to do that. It was hard for me to put Mr. Hockey in an honorable mention section. But we're not doing the Detroit Red Wings.
I know.
Right?
I know. That's why he's on second team. So like he was why they were in the NHL for 20 years.
Right. For me, this one was kind of tough because now you're starting to grasp at straws, right? And I went with Justin Williams.
Okay.
Stick. A big part of the 06 Stanley Cup team. He is the 11th all-time leader in Carolina, the Hurricanes history as far as points
just
scored.
Had to bring it back to the Kings, didn't you?
You know, I couldn't help myself. I just couldn't help myself. But no, I mean, there was names out there I was bouncing around like Pat Verbeek, even though I always thought of Pat Verbeek as a devil. It's just for me, it's the recognition, right? Pat Verbeek to me is the devil. Not because he's the little ball of hate, which they always called him, but just, and I know, like I said, he played for the Whalers, but anyways, no, I had to go with Justin Williams. Again, when you're starting to split hairs, I tend to look at the overall body of work, And the fact that he was a Stanley Cup winner with the Carolina Hurricanes, again, like I said, I know I said this before, but it's a team effort, but you still won.
Yeah.
And when you're splitting hairs, stuff like that makes a difference.
Yeah.
And so that is how Justin Williams ended up my right winger for my second all-time All-Star Carolina Hurricanes Hartford Whalers franchise All-Star team.
Yeah, I agree. I can agree with that.
Oh, we're starting to agree again. Oh, no.
Well, no, don't worry. We're not done talking about some of these players.
I got a feeling. I have a big feeling.
We're not done talking about some of these players.
But anyways, why don't we do a commercial break? That'll give us a chance to catch our breaths here and all that. But before we go to commercial break, we, of course, always do breakaway trivia. And since we're on a Hartford Whalers show, I got to have a Hartford Whalers question this week, right?
Yes.
So, the Carolina Hurricanes won a Stanley Cup. The Hartford Whalers never won a Stanley Cup, but did they win an Avco Cup as the World Hockey Association champions? The answer when we come back.
Visit My Little Falls and stay connected with the latest news, information, and events in the city and the area. Our mission is to generate interest in the community and connect residents in a more meaningful way by facilitating deeper conversations about how these stories will shape the future of the Mohawk Valley. Join thousands of weekly visitors who stay up to date with feature stories, interviews, videos, our event calendar, and print publication, the Mohawk Valley Express. It's about timely local news for the community, keeping citizens informed about important issues, telling about the people who live and work here, and giving locally owned businesses the opportunity to reach a very targeted audience of locals and tourists alike. It's a whole new form of media-rich content developed specifically for today's mobile lifestyle and listeners. You can download our iOS app in the iTunes store, listen to our country music streaming radio station, or sign up for a weekly newsletter. Stop by today at myfunfalls.com. You'll be glad you did.
And we're back. You know, that commercial is kind of like the Brass Bonanza of local news commercials, Dave. It's a sounding.
I know. You got me looking that up, right?
Yes.
Brass Bonanza.
Exactly. That's why I said it too,
Yeah.
just to remind you.
Yep.
I need to say, I've never seen such a glorious advertisement for Little Falls, the town I've been in more fights in high school.
Made you want to move here, right?
You know what? I just think of Little Falls, and I just think of that time in high school soccer, my senior year, when I was playing goal, and I lay out and I block a shot, and one of their players just kneed me right in the back.
Ouch.
Ooh.
And I was down. And as soon as I stood up, he was dead. I stood up. I walked up to him. He was just standing there staring at me. And I just sucker punched him right in the jaw. He didn't see it coming.
Jeez.
I was not waiting for him to accept the fight. I was just going to fight.
So how long were you on the field after that?
About 45 more seconds after the bleeding started.
Oh, jeez.
And that was my senior game, too.
Oh.
All right, well, let's get that breakaway trivia question and answer out of the way first before we go into our number one first team all-star all-time Carolina Hurricanes Hartford Whalers team. Said that really fast, too. Woo. Anyways, the question was, the Carolina Hurricanes won the Stanley Cup once. The Hartford Whalers never won the Stanley Cup, but did the Whalers win the Avco Cup as the World Hockey Association champions?
Yes.
You're right. They did.
Once.
You're right. You know when?
1972-73 season.
Wow. On point.
You know
On point.
Because I went up the card playing store in Herkimer?
Yeah.
They had a WHA card pack.
Really?
Yep, they had one.
No way.
Yep, it was like $50.
That was still, though, that's awesome.
And it was from that season, and it had the championship logo on it.
Well, there you go. It was the best $50 you ever spent because it got your right answer on breakaway trivia.
Yeah, it was the best $50 I ever spent because I flipped it for $100.
Well, yeah.
Jeez.
That, too. Yeah, they were known as the New England Whalers.
Yep.
New England
They played
Whalers.
at Boston Garden, and the Bruins really didn't care about them then. And then once they Once they moved to the NHL, the Bruins are so happy, and we're the only team in New England. It's kind of like when the Penguins switched to black and gold from that ugly baby blue.
Yeah.
And the Bruins are like, we're the only black and gold team. No, stupid reason.
That's kind of but that's like the Pittsburgh colors, though, right? I mean, because you got the Pirates, the Steelers. You know, it's got to be. It's got to be.
Yeah.
Come on. But yeah, you're right. I never liked those baby blue. I didn't like that kid at all. It didn't, because it never made any sense, because they had the Penguin as yellow and black, right? In the middle, it looked like somebody just took a bunch of colors and just threw it at a canvas.
Yep, it was ugly.
Yeah,
it was hideous.
I gotta agree with you on that one. But let's get back into disagreeing, because we have to determine our best team here, right?
Well, before we do that,
okay,
I am going to run to the bathroom real fast. give me 5 minutes. Wonderful radio. Nothing better than a bathroom break, but I'll be right back.
All right.
Oh boy, I can't believe this is the first time in this show's history that we've had to have a bathroom break.
I know.
I've never been through this.
You know, we should play something.
You're right.
Put some music on or something. I don't know what.
Well, you know what? In the meantime, though, can you find that Brass Bonanza clip?
The Brass Bonanza clip. All right.
So the Brass Bonanza, once you hear it, it's like quintessentially 70s, 80s. And all it is, it's an instrumental. But for anybody who knows hockey back then, the Brass Bonanza is just basically synonymous with not only the Whalers, but I mean with hockey of that era. And there we go. Now let it go.
We'll get a copyright slap here.
Isn't this great, Dave?
No,
No?
it reminds me of like Charlie's Angels or something.
I was thinking more along the lines of Dallas.
Okay, all right. I'll go with Dallas. That
You know?
works. Yeah. No, that's good.
Well, I figured you would like that, being from Texas, you know?
Yeah, no, I do. It was good.
J.R. Ewing.
Yeah. No, I like that.
All right.
That was a good one.
Well, anyways, he's back.
I had to bleed the lizard. I couldn't.
Oh, boy.
Thought about
Okay,
peeing in a bottle.
TMI. Don't worry about it. We played the Brass Bonanza in your absence.
Oh, I missed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you
I
have
used
to
to do
watch.
it once a week anyways. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, you have to watch the replay now. That's all.
Gives me a reason to watch.
Yeah. All right. So who is the coach of your all-time Hartford Whaler Carolina Hurricane team?
All right, the coach of my all-time Carolina Hurricane team is Peter Laviolette. Cups matter. He's not far off from the record of Paul Maurice. He was there for quite some time, but he won a cup. And that's what, to me, what was the separating factor.
Right. So, not a bad choice.
He's been a joke everywhere else.
Well, yeah, I mean, he has been kind of like the punching bag for other teams, but, I mean, you're right. I mean, cups talk, right?
Yeah.
And that was why I had such a hard time putting him as my second team, but I went with Paul Maurice as my first team. Longevity, right? Longevity, man. He was there for over 700 games. And I didn't realize he was there for that long. And no, he didn't get the cup, but he got close. He got close. And I will say that Paul Maurice did a heck of a job during a lot of lean years. When they didn't have, they weren't surrounded by talent a lot, you know, and what he was able to do with some of those teams is actually, you know, commendable and quite impressive.
It is.
So
it is very quite impressive.
Yes. I mean, so I'm like, no, I got to go with Paul Maurice here.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Well, you're wrong, but okay.
Yeah, well, you know, that's okay. That's okay. That's all right. Yeah, maybe now I got to go take a break.
Hey, Ed, you don't want me holding down the fort with you.
No.
I don't know a damn thing about this.
Ed, who is the best goalie in Carolina Hurricanes Hartford Whalers history?
This may be where we agree. Cam Ward.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the guy was there for forever. Cup, he had the cup. He did everything to backstop that. I mean, to me, Cam Ward is not necessarily a first ballot Hall of Famer, but he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been nominated for Vezinas. He's just been overall just an outstanding goaltender. He was there for forever. I mean, was it like 15 years he was there for?
Yeah, it was a long time. It was.
If not Hall of Fame, he deserves his number retired.
Well, yeah, I don't think he's necessarily Hockey Hall of Fame material, but he would certainly be like a Carolina Hurricanes Ring of Honor kind of thing.
I mean,
or whatever it is they call it down there for
have you ever been to the Hall of Fame?
I have. It's been a while, but I have.
Have you ever noticed that there's 1,000 names in that place that you don't even know who they are?
Well, it's because there's different categories.
Yeah, there's different categories.
Like
I'm talking players, though. Like, there are players from like 1942 who made it in the Hall of Fame in 1945 because they had a 60-goal season or whatever, or they scored the most goals in a season.
Yeah. I mean, different eras, different times, right?
I know.
I mean, we talked about that before, too. It's almost impossible to compare. I always tend to look at it as like a 30 to 40-year window, right? So when you're talking about comparing, say, a player from 1980 to a player from 2020, you know how hard that is?
It's night and day.
It is.
Technology is completely different.
The rules are different.
The rules are different. Let's face it, the gameplay overall was completely different. Like,
yeah,
in 1980, if your head wasn't on a swivel, you were getting decapitated.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
Today, if your head's not on a swivel, you get bumped and cry. Thanks, Crosby.
And he's going to blame Sid.
Listen, I love Sidney Crosby now. The older I get and the older he gets, I find his game a lot better. But when I was a kid, all he was a crybaby.
You know what? I have to echo that sentiment because for the first 10 years of his career, I was like, oh, jeez, this guy again.
Unbearable.
This guy again. What's he crying about now?
Yeah.
You know? But the very fact of the matter is he's the best player in the league for a long time. And I know he's getting overshadowed by Connor McDavid and the Dreisaitl's and the Austin Matthews of the world because that's what happens, right? I mean, time moves on, evolution moves on, stuff like that.
Yeah, the game moves on, the game forgets.
But I will say that Sidney Crosby, to this day, still does one thing better in the league that I don't care if it's Connor McDavid or whoever it is. He makes his teammates better.
Yes.
He does. I've said this 1,000 times. You could put a fire hydrant on Sidney Crosby's line, and that fire hydrant will get 25 goals.
Yeah, you can put you on the line, and you'll still get
I know. That's what I mean.
No.
I bet you could happen until I got hurt.
Scott wouldn't get a goal or
No, I would get a goal before I got hurt.
Oh, okay. Jeez. Well, they've said no, like you weren't going to get a goal.
No,
that's what I was saying.
No, because not to dive into it or anything, but I mean, if you look at Connor McDavid is certainly the most exciting player in this league, hands down, no doubt about it. But you've noticed how long it's taking Edmonton to find line mates for him?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because a guy like that is so hard to play with because he's so super fast and quick and agile. It's
Connor McDavid to me is a one-dimensional player. And that's not a bad thing. You got to have those in order, especially if it's goal scoring. I'd rather him be a one-dimensional goal scorer than a centerman, a one-dimensional defensive centerman.
Right.
Because that's a fourth liner in my eyes. A centerman who doesn't score but he can protect the net. All right, that's a fourth liner. But Connor McDavid, at least you can get him the puck, and he'll just go out and do his thing.
Right.
But Crosby, he could go out, get him the puck, he'll do his thing, and then that puck just comes back to you, back door.
Yeah, exactly.
You forgot, you don't even know where you are on the ice, and you're scoring a goal.
Right. Exactly. So, Barry's actually got an interesting comment about this, and I have to agree here. So he says, not taking anything away from the Hurricanes, but like you just said, they played in a different era, and the players that played in New England and Hartford is what made the Whalers, which he's absolutely correct about. But the hard thing about doing a list like this one is it's the same franchise.
Yep.
Right? It's still the same franchise. So to do a real comparison, you have to include both teams, which is why, I was struggling. I'm like, wow, this one's going to be fun. But then I got thinking later, I'm like, wow, what if we ever did a Nordiques one? But then we have to include the Avalanche.
Yeah.
Right? So it's that same kind of thing. Actually, when we did New Jersey last week, we could have included the Rockies and the Kansas City Scouts, but there wasn't really anybody from that era that was going to make the team. So
I can think of one.
We got off light.
McDonald.
And besides, it would have gone to 3 hours.
And he wasn't there that long. He never played New Jersey.
I think he was there for 2 seasons.
2 seasons, and that's
He'd
it.
have been an honorable mention just because he's Lanny McDonald.
Yeah, and with my criteria, I mean, I always say the player's got to be there for at least 4 seasons to be able to be considered an all-time great of that team. But anyways, so we agree on Cam Ward. Now, this is where it's going to get fun. I want to know who your 2 defensemen are.
My 2 defensemen are 2 young bucks. I think they're 2 of the best defensemen in the game right now. They may not be fit for every team, but I think for Carolina, they're perfect. Justin Falk and Jacob Slavin.
Justin Falk's a good choice.
I think Jacob Slavin more than Justin Falk.
You know what? I got him on my list too, Slavin.
Yeah.
You know, he's one of those guys, he's not going to do a ton for you offensively. You know who Jacob Slavin reminds me of?
Jacob Slavin has always reminded me of
Rod Langway.
Rod Langway. Just a classic stay-at-home, pump-and-dump defenseman. Just gets the puck on his stick, off the glass and out.
Yeah, but he does it so well.
Does it perfectly. I mean,
every single time.
When I watch defense, as a defenseman, I watch the defenseman very heavily when I'm watching hockey. And I'm very much a big fan of Jacob Slavin. I think he's, as a defenseman, he holds every skill a defenseman needs. He could take the body. He could stick check incredibly well. If you notice, he doesn't take stick infractions.
No,
he doesn't take hookings. He doesn't take trippings.
No,
he knows where his stick is at all times, and he puts it where it needs to go.
And he doesn't make a mistake.
No, he doesn't make a single mistake. He's never caught flat-footed. He's never pinched. He doesn't do anything like that. He's just overall I would say, the best defensive defenseman in the league today.
Right. Exactly. And I totally agree with that.
And there's players currently on Carolina that have to watch him because I think Ethan Bear has all the tools needed to become a great defenseman, to become an all-time great. I think Ethan Bear is phenomenal. And if
he just needs experience.
He just needs years.
Yeah.
He just needs years and a guy like Jacob Slavin to look up to.
Right.
I think Jacob Slavin's going to, when this is all said and done, I don't think Jacob Slavin has the tools needed to become a Hall of Famer anymore. If this was 1970, he would be a Hall of Famer. But because this is 2022, he's going to be a Ring of Honor.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So, in absolutely. 15, 20 years and we'll get into it when we talk about the Hurricanes this season, but I think Jacob Slavin's going to be a key factor on that team.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And, it's actually going to be a shame that if he continues at the current trajectory he's at as a fantastic defensive defenseman, if he doesn't end up making the Hall of Fame someday because his offensive numbers are really pedestrian, that's a shame.
It is.
That's a real shame.
Because that's a skill in the game that I feel like is being lost.
Yeah.
Because, we're in an era that we're seeing 5-4, 6-5, 7-4 games. And it's fun to watch as a fan, and it's fun to, see that. But I do miss the slugfests of 1-0. And if it wasn't for defensemen like him, we wouldn't see those 1-0, 2-1 games.
No, we wouldn't. But unfortunately, TV does not like those games.
Yeah, TV. It's boring for TV. Whatever.
TV, yeah, and TV drives
But you know what? It is. You say that, and you say that TV doesn't like those games. But if a true hockey fan would know that those 1-0 games are far more intense because they're just frustrating. It's frustrating to be out there on a 1-0 game because you're like, why can't I do anything? Right. Then we're matching each other perfectly, and then boom, hits, fights, everything that TV loves also is driven by a 1-0 game.
Right. Exactly. No, I totally agree. Totally agree.
That's because we're purists in the sport.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, we actually are.
Yeah.
So my other choice, and this was hard because I actually wanted to put your best friend, Ulf Samuelsson, in there.
I hate him.
But Dave Babbitt's numbers were fantastic when he was an actual Hartford Whaler. He was there for 6 years, and he was almost a point. He was almost a point a game player, almost 3/4 a point, which is phenomenal from the defense position. Really,
it is.
You know, he was an all-star a few times, and to be honest with you, looking at the list of Hartford Whalers defensemen that were there for a while, and the same thing can be said for the Hurricanes. There's not a real long list of players that were defensemen anyway that were there for years that could establish themselves as like a best of the best.
Yeah,
for that whole franchise, it seemed like it was always like plug and play, right?
It was. Well, in Hartford, you didn't want to go there because of the weather, right?
Yeah.
New England winters suck, and hockey's a winter sport, so you really didn't want to go to Hartford in the winter when you have played teams like Florida and Tampa Bay in the league just being beautiful all year round.
Right.
And then they go to Carolina, which you could say gets a little cold in the winter, but you don't have to shovel snow. So you'd think they'd maybe attract a few more players. It never really came to fruition until players like Eric Stahl came about.
Right.
You know, because then once they moved to Carolina, it was like, all right, well, I can go there, but who am I going to play with? Garbage?
Yeah. Yeah, in front of a relatively empty building. Yeah.
Yeah. And I will, and with full intent to insult, worst fans in hockey.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know.
I think Carolina, when they're
I'm not going to say they're the worst fans in hockey. I will say that all that storm surge stuff kind of gets a little irritating sometimes.
See, I did like the storm surge. I did. Because that was something new and that was something unique and it didn't affect the game at all.
Right.
So to me, it was just like, all right, they're just having a little bit of fun. Like, that's why you play the game.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, at least it was after the game. It wasn't like they were stopping after they scored a goal to do it.
Yeah, it's not like they were wheeling Evander Holyfield's corpse out to box.
But sometimes it seemed like they were trying just a little too hard with it, too. You know,
they definitely were, but, like, you know what? They're hockey players. They're not comedians, so they don't have creative minds. They just know how to ice skate and stick out.
Don't have creative minds.
But you know what? With bringing it back to the storm surge, it was refreshing. It was a breath of fresh air, and it really. I liked how it pissed off that old coot Don Cherry.
Yeah. Oh, come on.
Listen, Don Cherry had some of the most archaic viewpoints I've ever seen in sports. Just pure anarchy. He didn't evolve with the game.
I mean, I will say that especially towards the end, that his time had probably passed him by.
Oh yeah,
there's no doubt about that. That he wasn't going to be able to connect with, the younger generation coming through like he had before, because for reasons like you just said, some of his points of view were way out there.
Yeah,
but for me with Don Cherry is like you always, if you knew hockey. Right, you knew that was basically that's grapes,
It's grapes. Oh,
grapes is the first thing that comes to his mind is going to come flying out of his mouth because there is no filter whatsoever.
No filter,
none.
And you know what? I will say some of my fondest.
When as many memories. Times there should have been one, but there wasn't.
No. You know what? Sometimes a little foresight.
Yeah,
seeing where the world is now. He would probably still be on TV today.
Yeah,
just for being Don Cherry.
Sure.
But like my fondest memories growing up were watching the Rock'em Sock'em tapes with my dad.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I love Don Cherry. I do. I love old when it was 1998, and I was watching the Rock'em Sock'em tapes and watching old Bruins just going after people, going into the Rangers crowd and fighting people. Sure. That was great for me.
Absolutely.
That made me love the game.
It would never fly now, though.
Oh no. Oh no.
Moving right along. Oh, by the way, Jordy Fighter agrees with you and me. The 1-0 games are a lot more entertaining than those 7-4. He's absolutely right too. And check out his YouTube channel if you want to see some really cool local hockey videos. Okay. He makes some pretty cool videos, so check it out.
Okay.
So moving right along to our all-time left winger. Who you got?
I'm bringing it back home, Eric Cole.
Bringing it home for Eric Cole.
Bringing it home for Eric Cole.
Wow.
I've met him a couple of times.
Uh-huh.
He's a gentleman. I mean, super nice guy. Humble. You just want, he's just like an everyday guy. But his hockey spoke for itself. He was a solid player. He found himself a mainstay in the NHL, stayed relatively healthy, and most importantly, he was a part of that leadership team that got him to a cup.
Yeah.
He was a veteran at that point in his career, and he helped get them a cup.
Sure. Well, I mean, hey, listen, Cubs talk. They do.
Cubs talk.
But I had to go with the man who holds the Hartford Whaler Carolina Hurricane record for most goals in a season. And that was Mr. Blaine Stoughton, scored 56 goals. I think it was 1983.
That's going to be broken this year.
In one season. So it might be. It could be.
Broken this year.
It might be, but it still isn't.
No, you're right.
So for that reason alone, he is my number one left winger in Hartford Whaler history. Oh, boy. That's why you had to have a break.
Yeah, that's why I had to have a break. It went everywhere.
Went
everywhere.
Ed.
Yes.
How about your number one center of all time?
My number
I think we're going to
one
agree on this one.
Eric Stahl.
Oh, we're
Eric
not
Stahl.
going to agree.
Eric, you said it yourself. Best, leading goal scorer, all these accolades. Best center in Carolina Hurricanes history.
Maybe Carolina Hurricanes, but I got to disagree with you. I got to go with Ron Francis. To me, one of the most underrated players in NHL history. Beyond a shadow of a doubt.
I think time has told that he. Oh, what the hell was that sound? Outside. Whoa. That came from outside. Something just popped out there. But I think around Francis.
Maybe a rock got kicked up from that jalopy that went by earlier.
Oh my God!
It's finally landing.
Drive by.
The fenders were different colors. It drove by. The doors were red. The back doors were black. The fenders were silver. The hood was orange. It was brutal to look at. But yeah, to me, Carolina Hurricanes. When I think centers in Carolina Hurricane history, I think of Eric Cole. I think Eric Cole overall is one of the. You mean
you're on left? We were at the center.
Oh yeah, Eric Stahl. Eric
Stahl. Yeah.
I think of Eric Stahl. When I think centers in Carolina Hurricane history, and I think Sebastian Aho will overtake that, I think Eric Stahl. Eric Stahl is overall just one of the best to ever do it, in my eyes. When it's all said and done, being a mainstay center in the NHL is no easy task, especially being a first line mainstay center for how many years? 10 years?
Yeah, but I mean, but look how long Ron Francis did it.
Ron Francis. When I think of Ron Francis, I think Pittsburgh Penguins. Though.
See, I can't.
Penguins. It's tough for me not to think the Penguins. I mean,
because he was only there for like 3 years.
He was, but he got 2 cups out of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, look at the team he was playing with too. I would hope they won a couple cups.
Yeah, no, I'm surprised they only won a couple cups.
Honestly, you're right. You're right. On a team that had Bartle Lemieux, Ron Francis, and Brian Trottier down the middle.
And then down the sides you had Yager.
I know. Kevin Stevens.
You had the defense of Paul Coffey.
They made Rob Brown a 45-goal scorer.
Yeah. So that Penguins team should have had way more.
But anyways, let's get back to our original team here, the Whalers and the Hurricanes. So we obviously disagree at center. But let's close this out with who is the best right winger.
Justin Williams.
Okay.
Williams.
So that's why you didn't argue with me too hard. I got you.
No, I had to bust your balls on the Kings thing because you gave it to me with the Bruins.
Turnabout is fair play, huh?
Yeah. Justin Williams. There's a reason why he kept coming back.
Yeah.
He loved it. And I've talked about this with a couple people I've met who've played in the NHL. They say when you find that home, when you find that city that just takes you in, you end up having to leave. All you want to do is go back.
Right.
That's why players retire and they go there. I don't know if you listened to Spit and Chicklets this week's episode with Dino Cicerelli, but he talked about Detroit and he just loved it there. He didn't even get it. He was traded before they got a cup in the 90s, and he said, I love Detroit so much. He retired there and opened a bar. So Justin Williams just loved Carolina, and they loved him, and he just kept going back and going back and going back. He goes to the Kings for a couple of years, gets another cup. He goes to Washington for a year, misses out on a cup, and then just goes back to Carolina after every time.
Well, I mean, he did build a house there, too. before he left for the first time. And I guess that's just so you're right. I mean, that was kind of like, his home,
Yeah. Like he may be a good old Canadian boy and an NHLer, but he's himself a Carolina Hurricane for life. And I wouldn't be surprised if they retire his number this year.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? That'd be nice to see. That really would.
Honestly, that would be, because I think Justin Williams is one of the most underrated players of all time.
Fair. That's fair.
I think Justin Williams overall, like, I think he finds you look at somebody like Justin Williams and, like, yeah, maybe his numbers weren't considered greatness of all time and stuff like that, but the guy just knew how to win. There's a reason why he was Mr. Game 7.
Yeah, I know.
He just didn't know how to lose.
Right.
He didn't want to lose. And that fact right there makes him, why he's on this list is because of the Game 7s. Even though it's just Carolina we're talking about, the guy just won.
Right.
And just the fact that he kept going back. I mean, even when the years were rough on him, and even when the years were rough on the Hurricanes, he found himself wanting to put on that Carolina Hurricanes jersey.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you know what? That's all very, like I said, he was my number 2 on my second line. But for me, the best right winger in the Hurricanes Whalers franchise history, to me, Mr. Whaler, Kevin Dineen. It had to be. I mean, he was, listen, what he brought to the team.
Call back to Utica.
Exactly. Head coach of our Utica Comets here, right? And I'm not saying that to blow smoke. I'm just saying that, honestly, really, when you think of, especially in the 80s, right? Look back at the 80s, what he brought to that team. Not only did he bring goal scoring, which he had plenty of, he brought all kinds of grit and the leadership, even through the lean years, right? So he was the last captain of the Hartford Whalers and then the first captain of the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yep.
Right? So with all that put together, yeah, I know he didn't win the cup, but still, overall, when I think Hartford Whaler, Carolina Hurricane right winger, as much as I love Justin Williams, it's Kevin Dineen that gets the nod.
I can agree with that. Yeah, I can see where you come from. I personally am a huge Justin Williams fan. I mean, even though Brad Marchand clowned him his last season, I still love Justin Williams.
Yeah,
I think Justin Williams is by far one of the most underrated players in the history of the league. He'll go down as just a winner, and winners get in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Barry actually says we did miss one. Jim Pine McKenzie.
Oh God!
Coming back from the old days, yeah, we kind of we did.
We definitely forgot somebody.
Oops, I knew. You know what? That's what's so hard about these lists. When you have a team that's been around for 45 years, there's only so many spots to slot in. But he's right. I mean, I think Pye actually has his number retired by the Whalers, didn't he?
I believe so.
I think he did, because wasn't that the number that was the big controversy when they had the Whalers, or I'm sorry, the Hurricanes did the first throwback night for the reverse retros for the Whalers?
Yeah.
And they let Dougie Hamilton wear his number?
Yeah, and they were.
Remember that?
They were not happy.
And it was like a
old
big
Whalers faithful were not happy.
Yeah. So, good call, Barry. Very good call. That's very true. Well, I didn't know there were comments live on this. This is cool. I like reading this. This is interesting. Yeah. We got Paul Coffey, love the whale, wink, wink. Oh, man, that's fantastic. Well, this was, again, so much fun. Now that we've looked back at the past, Eddie, what do you think of what's this season going to bring for the Carolina Hurricanes?
I think Carolina, so the Metropolitan Division, you can't help but say has gotten tougher.
Oh, yeah.
The whole East has gotten tougher.
Oh, yes.
Last time I was on, we talked about the Bruins, and I said Bruins are missing the playoffs because the whole division, the whole conference, the Eastern Conference, is now so incredibly tough,
right?
That it's hard to really predict exactly where. Now, I think Carolina is going to make the playoffs. They easily make the playoffs. With that being said, they're going to have a tough time with the Rangers, mainly because of their goaltending. Igor Shesterkin's phenomenal. I think every team's going to have a tough time with the Rangers. But the Rangers also have a toughness to them now with Ryan Reeves and Keandre Miller that can rival the skill of this Carolina team. I personally see the Rangers winning the Metropolitan. Carolina coming in second.
Okay.
I could see it being Rangers getting 110 points, Carolina getting 106, somewhere in that ballpark.
Okay.
And that's really just how it falls, because they're not going to play each other every night. Rangers overall, I think, have a better team starting from the goalie moving forward.
Right.
And that's Carolina's weak spot, is goaltending. Inconsistencies with Frederik Andersen. Freddie Andersen, when he's good, he's great. When he's bad, he's injured.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
You're right. You're absolutely right, actually. They did make a couple of moves in the offseason. Max Pacioretty for future considerations.
Yeah, Max Pacioretty for a can of oxygen was a great trade.
And then now he's hurt. I think he's out for like 6 months.
Yeah.
But that could be huge come playoff time.
I think Max Pacioretty...
If he can come back by the playoffs, right?
I think Max Pacioretty is going to be a great addition to this team, mainly because of the youth and his experience.
Yeah.
I mean, Max Pacioretty, he's been an NHL mainstay for, 12 years now?
A little bit longer than that, I think.
A little bit longer than that.
Yeah.
I mean, probably since 2008, 2009, that area.
Right.
And Max Pacioretty is he was a captain with the Canadiens for a reason. He was great with the Golden Knights for a reason. The guy just knows how to play hockey.
Right.
Unfortunately, he is injured for the next 6 months. And that's going to severely hurt the team, because that's just now they're going to have to dig into the AHL, and let's face it, that's always a gamble.
Yeah, but you know what though, Ed? I think that as far as forward position, as far as forward position goes, that's not going to affect the Hurricanes at all. As you want to talk about a team that's just loaded with forward prospects. I mean, Seth Jarvis, look what he did when he came up last year.
Seth, said they're not going to have any problem putting the puck in the net most nights. I think they're going to have a problem keeping the puck out of the net, because Jacob Slavin can't play 60 minutes.
No, but you know what, though? They went, and it's going to be interesting to see how he does here, but with Brent Burns.
Oh, I forgot about Brent Burns.
That was an interesting move.
That was.
Now, I get that Brent is 37 years old, but he doesn't have to play all those number one minutes anymore.
No, that's great for both Burns and the Hurricanes, is because now Brent Burns doesn't have to hold 27 minutes a night.
Right.
He could play 15.
Exactly. And power play.
Yeah, he could quarterback a power play.
Right.
Very easily quarterback a power play.
Absolutely. He's been doing it for years.
Yeah, so when losing Dougie Hamilton, everyone thought that was going to be a bad thing for the Hurricanes a couple years ago. And I think that it's been better since he's gone, which most teams have left that Dougie Hamilton has left behind has realized it is better without Dougie Hamilton around. He is, but yeah, no, I don't like Dougie Hamilton. He's another one of those players who I really don't care much for. But Brent Burns now he could very easily quarterback the first power play. He can take second line minutes. He could play 15 to 20 a night and be perfectly fine.
Right.
Now being 37 years old is going to be where it kind of hinders him. I could see him retiring in 2 years. That's not far-fetched at all.
No, they're definitely going to have to shelter some minutes for him.
Yeah, I mean,
make no mistake about that.
We're talking about a guy who's in the twilight of his career, but fortunately, his twilight's much better than most
no doubt.
Players, So, yeah, I think that the addition of Brent Burns is going to be a big help for the team. And like we talked about, Jacob Slavin. I mean, the guy just keeps the puck out of the net.
Yeah,
he's overall, I would say, the best defensive defenseman in the league. He gets overshadowed severely by players like Charlie McAvoy and Brent, in the past, Brent Burns, Erik Karlsson, players who could score, defensemen who could score. That
Drew Doughty.
I mean, if Drew Doughty's ever healthy again,
I know, right?
But when Drew Doughty's healthy, he's great. But when there's but Jacob Slavin, he's healthy.
There's no doubt.
Just a defensive defenseman. He's a powerhouse. And then, if we're talking defense here, you got to talk about Ethan Bear.
Right.
He's a kid. He's a kid, but the kid's good.
Exactly. And Edmonton pretty much just gave up on him.
I know, and I don't know why.
They just gave up.
They gave up. Edmonton's great at giving up on defense.
I know, right?
Edmonton's great at giving up.
They figure, well, we got McDavid. We got McDavid and Draisaitl. We don't need defense.
Yeah, and I'm sitting there. I'm just like, oh, when is Darnell Nurse going to be on the market? Because Boston better be licking their lips on that one. We got Taylor Hall for a pack of bubble gum and a.
I know.
And why don't we try to get Darnell Nurse with that? Say it with a different pack of bubble gum.
Yeah, well, but the thing is, I don't think you're going to have Darnell Nurse saying, "No, I want out of Buffalo and I want to go to Boston, and that's all I want." That's how they were able to get him so cheap because Buffalo had zero leverage in that deal.
I know,
none.
I think you know what though. I hear that as much as Boston is historically a rough team to play for because of our fans are awful. I don't see why players don't want to play there because the fans are also loyal. Yeah. And it's an original six team that, has found a way to stay relevant over the years, even when teams like Montreal, even though with their recent cup run, that was a fluke, they have not. Right. Chicago lost relevance. It's really just been half of the original six has been relevant lately, with the other half either trying to regain relevancy or not.
Or being in a severe rebuild.
Or rape charges.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chicago, for ruining hockey.
Oh, man. But I'll tell you, one interesting pickup, and it was like last week they just pulled this off. They brought in Paul Stastny, who I understand is a little long in the tooth, but this is one of those guys that makes a difference at this point in his career, the third or fourth line, which is great for them. Because it gives them depth that they need.
It does. It really does. But I've always looked at Paul Stastny kind of, he's as far as I've known of Paul Stastny, he's been a goal scorer. He knows how to put the puck in the net. When you're talking third or fourth line here, we're not talking about putting the puck in the net. Maybe it's because I have ancient viewpoints, and to me, there's a scoring line, there's a second line, a checking line, and all this stuff. Like each line had like that, quote unquote name where it's like the checking line, the scorers, and all that. But you put a player like Paul Stastny on the third line, and he's going to be overwhelmed. I feel like.
Yeah,
he's a first, second line player with his skill set. But his age just doesn't allow.
Right, and that's why it's just going to be like with Brent Burns. Shelter the minutes, keep him fresh throughout the year, and have him ready for the playoffs. But I do think you're right when you say that Carolina's biggest problem right now is their goaltending. Because, again, you can't depend on the health of Freddie Anderson.
No.
I like Antti Raanta, but, is this a guy that you're going to ride to a Stanley Cup if Anderson goes down?
Not one.
And I understand that there's really, like the goaltending market is kind of bare. Because that was the other one thing about expansion. Yeah, you can get all kinds of forwards and defensemen because they're all over the place, but great goalies are really hard to find.
Yeah, they're really hard to find. And I know Antti Raanta, he just won the Cup with Colorado, right?
No, you're thinking of Darcy Kemper.
Darcy Kemper. Oh, no, Antti Raanta was in Colorado, was in Phoenix.
He was in Arizona, and then he was with the Rangers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Antti Raanta, you're not riding a Cup to. Frederik Andersen, if he stays healthy the whole year, you could.
Yeah.
You easily could.
Right.
But he's not going to stay healthy the whole year.
So
he's going to get injured around the All-Star break. And then a couple months later, right when it's winding down and playoff time's about to kick up, he's going to come back. And then right before playoff starts, he's going to re-pull his groin. And I wish I was joking. I wish that was a joke. That's been his issue. And that's every goaltender's issue. If you talk to other goaltenders just in our league, it's been groin issue,
right.
Knee, hip, groin issue.
That's because they don't stand up anymore.
You know what? Yeah, that's just...
It's true.
It is. It is true. And they're doing the wide splits and stuff like that.
The human body wasn't meant to do that 100 times a year.
No, it wasn't. No, we're not talking about humans. We're talking about freaks of nature.
Yeah, right? Oh, see, Barry, such a great show, Scott. I was glad to hear the great names of those great players from the past. Thank you so much, Barry. Appreciate it. And, just to wrap up, I mean, that Metro is going to be a war this year.
It's going to be
Nobody's running away with that division. I don't care who they are. There's nobody running away with it.
So here's my Metropolitan prediction. Rangers winning it with 106 points, or 110 points. Carolina second place, 106 points. Then we're going to go I firmly believe that third place is going to go to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, I think, is going to be around the 100 to 104 range because you can't count them out. There's still a dog left in that team. You know, you got Crosby. You can't discount the guy. They just go out and re-sign Malkin and Letang. There's no chance that they're going to squander this opportunity. And then I see maybe Washington at fourth or fifth. God, who else is in that division?
So you got the Islanders.
Yep. I don't think the Islanders are much of what they were a couple years ago.
See,
I don't think
I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I'm not counting the Islanders out.
I'll give the Islanders the 4 seed.
Sorokin,
I'll give them a wild card spot.
Sorokin, to me, is going to end up being this year's Shesterkin. You watch, he almost was last year.
I have such a hard time believing that.
He almost was last year, though. That's what I mean, you know?
He almost was last year. I mean, yeah, but the Islanders are going to do better just simply off the fact that they're going to be playing at home earlier in the season. They're not only the first month and a half on the road, draining their bodies and getting jet lagged.
Right. And, well, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, they got creamed by COVID last year, too.
Yeah, I mean, nothing. They had everything.
In all honesty, though, the only team in that division that did not improve was Philadelphia.
Philly's going to be last in the division.
Columbus got sneaky better. New Jersey's on their way up.
New Jersey, I don't think so.
I don't think they might not make the playoffs, but they're going to sniff. I'll tell you right now, they're going to sniff.
All right, going from bottom up: Philly, then New Jersey, then Columbus, then Washington, Islanders, Pittsburgh.
Here's the issue for Metropolitan Division teams, right? So that's going to be such a dogfight that they're all going to be beating the crap out of each other, which is going to allow the Atlantic teams an easier path to the wild cards. I'm telling you.
I know the Atlantic teams are going to be beating the crap out of each other too.
Yeah, I mean,
let's face it. They got
better too.
The Florida Panthers.
Yeah, is Florida going to be for real again? Right.
I think Florida is going to be more for real than they were last year.
I think
they may not win the division. They may not win the Presidents or the division, but you're going to see them kind of gel with each other a little bit more with the addition of Matthew Tkachuk. That's what they missed last year. It was a little bit of grit.
Yeah. I mean, that could be a very good point, but boy, they lost a lot, though, too.
They lost Huberdeau and Weegar, but I don't think Weegar was going to stay, and I don't think Huberdeau was going to stay.
But I think this is going to be the last season you're going to see of pretty much the old status quo for these teams or for these divisions. I think there's too many teams that are on the rise. Like Buffalo's on the rise, no doubt about it. Detroit's on the rise. Ottawa is on the rise. They're putting together young talent left and right. So I think this is going to be the last season that you're going to see teams, Pittsburgh and Washington both come to mind, because they're aging out.
And Boston.
And Boston's on their way down. I'm sorry, but they've got some issues they're going to have to work through. They really do. They got to get younger themselves.
Last episode, they're an aging team with not much depth in the pipeline.
And I think this is going to be the last season that you see Tampa Bay being a dominant division in the team. They're still going to be a good team in a couple of years. Don't get me wrong. But I just can't see them being as dominant in a couple of years.
Yeah.
I mean,
I can agree with that.
They surprised the heck out of me by making the Cup final. They really did.
Yeah.
I was stunned that they made it, and good for them. But they're also running into a situation where you're talking salary cap, you're talking age, the whole works.
Well, I mean, let's face it.
And I'm going to tell you right now, this year, if they don't get somebody to be a 1B to Vasilevsky, they're going to be in trouble. Because that man has played an awful lot of hockey.
Yeah.
And that's a position that can really get you wore down in a hurry.
I think you're going to see Vasilevsky get his first major injury this year. And that's something I don't want to see or say.
Nobody does.
But it's hard to deny the fact that he has played a lot of hockey in the past 3-4 years.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
I mean, let's face it, the COVID year with a half season, that was what? He played, 90% of the games?
Yeah, exactly. He didn't take a break.
Yeah. Then the year after that was, when they won the cup. I mean, let's face it, a cup run's not easy.
No.
Especially when you're away from your family that first cup.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and they've been on several of them at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, they've been 3 in a row.
Right. So that's almost like 2.5 seasons of extra hocky right there.
Yeah, exactly. So
like I said, I think that they really need to do something about that. Brian Elliott's a good goaltender. I just think they got to give him some more playing time.
Brian Elliott's also 40 years old.
True, but it's got to be a little bit more than an 85-15 split at this point.
I think they're going to have to, and this is where I think the league should go if I was a team like Tampa. I would make a push for Philadelphia to get Carter Hart.
Yeah. Somebody who needs to change the scenery.
Let's face it, Philly's doing nothing with him.
Yeah.
Kid has zero confidence.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Bring him somewhere where he's going to be used and rebuild his confidence back up.
It's a very good point.
So maybe if, maybe an 85-50 for the first year of Carter Hart, but then second year of Carter Hart, you could do 60-40.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And
that's just, if I was Tampa Bay, I would push for him,
Right.
I would like to see Boston maybe trade Linus Ullmark for Carter Hart. That'd be pretty sweet.
Good luck.
I know.
Well, buddy, I think that's about all the time we got for this week. But that was fun, and I got to tell you, man, we're getting so close. We're so close to hockey season starting. I can't wait.
I know.
I really can't. Oh.
2 more weeks for my tournament, 3 weeks for the league.
Yep. Enough of this heat and humidity. Let's get that ice back out.
I know. I'm so excited to go to Florida just to lay in ice.
Yeah, there you go. Well, Eddie, thanks again for coming on. And like I said, you're going to be back many more times, my friend. So,
yes, thank
you
you
better
very
get used
much,
to this
Scott.
place. Get used to it. All right, so that's all we got for this week. So, like I said, take a look at sportshistorynetwork.com to check out Marty's Illegal Stick swag and some Marty's Illegal Stick info. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, all across social media, and please subscribe to the show on YouTube, podcast networks, everywhere. All right, that's it. That's all we got. So, thanks for listening, and we will see you next week on Marty's Illegal Stick, a hockey history.
At the Sports History Network, we're all about sports yesteryear, and so we're so pleased to introduce you to Row One, an online memorabilia gallery and shop that brings your sports history to life anywhere. The Row One gallery includes over 5,200 gorgeously reproduced prints of team posters, game program covers, game tickets, advertisements, and more in baseball, pro and college football, pro and college basketball, and more. And any gallery item may be printed in a variety of sizes on wood, metal, canvas, acrylic, or poster paper. And in Row One shop, check out the thousands more of unique items with the retro and historical designs dating back to 1876, including t-shirts, long sleeve shirts, phone cases, mugs, blankets, pillows, towels, and even shower curtains. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com, ROW1, for access to the full Row One catalog and for gallery prints and gift items, plus get a 15% discount off all prints on the Row One Pictorum Gallery with coupon code SHN15. Follow the link on the show notes.